All right. I was able to attend also the Leroy Petry Medal of Honor program. It was humbling, and the amount of adversity that gentleman has lived through is, I haven't seen anyone like it. Again, it was humbling. On the PBIS thing, that's kind of a buzzword we hear at conferences now, and what exactly is it? Better, what isn't it? It's not a means of targeting and isolating the kids that we think are the bad kids, like I was. It's the adults. What it actually is, it's adults in the system treating kids like human beings and not following the model that put people on meaningless assembly line jobs in 1963. So if you want your kids to behave, then model that behavior. And I think you have to realize, is today the day that some kid will look at you and develop their self-esteem for the rest of their life, so we don't have these prison stories? By the way, I was raised by a maximum security prison guard stepfather and a Republican, so that should say a lot. Again, I'd like to join, I think the superintendent, whoever said it, Jackie Ayer was the one that's kind of been pushing for this behind the scenes. She does a lot for our community. She gets embarrassed. She will rip you up like an attorney if you commit CEQA violations. But I'm going to run to Jackie very quickly, because this Cali Lake, we've been both complaining about people being disenfranchised and disengaged, and underserviced being moved up here in the interest of making the sidewalks clean for the LA election. There's some activity out at Cali Lake, which used to be White Rock Lake or something down there at the end of Soledad. And this article is particularly interesting because it talks about homeless people coming in from shelters and school buses and stuff. I don't know what this all means, but I'm very concerned about disenfranchised and disengaged people coming in here without the proper services, and the county being behind making that happen. Back to PBIS, Dr. Tim, come on down. I heard rumors that you were actually seen out at High Desert, waving at people and greeting people in the morning. So either you were hopelessly lost, or you're actually a practical example of PBIS. Thank you. Don't get comfortable, I'm not done with you yet. Shout out from me to Coach Michelle Herman at volleyball at High Desert. I really don't think that she understands ultimately the effect that her program is going to have on making our brand and keeping ADA at the high school. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at numbers. And she's pretty good with our kids when we can't be there. So again, Coach Michelle Herman, you're the best. Hey, guess what my new reading material is? It's Charter AB 1507. It's the Bible of how not to place your charter in an out-of-boundary situation. So I like to make sure everybody knows what charter people, everybody's still here? Listen up. You know, I went through the Newhall versus Acton, Agua, Dulce Unified School District lawsuit from start to finish, all the way to the appellate court. I was there every time. And did you know that the sponsor of this bill, guess what they used to be, or the author, or whatever you want to call it in legal world? Do you know who they are? They used to be the president of the Newhall School Board. Imagine that. So I'll tell you this, if you are a charter and you're still here and you've been through my ringer over the past few years, then you are not in a cell or under indictment in San Diego County, so good for you. So as you come forward with your material, like that. Ankle bracelets, anyone? No. Okay. So as you come forward with your material revisions, understand that I haven't gotten soft. I'm still Pfalzgraf, and I'm going to be asking you questions about why you're bringing us sites that have never been associated with this district, because I understand by January 1st the party is over, and we're going to try to slip stuff in here. So I'm going to ask you very difficult questions. I'm going to ask you what your Shasta exception is, Shasta exception. on every site that you bring to me in your material vision. I want to know what your WIO, if it's WIOA. WIOA is a broad term. It's a concept. So if you have a WIOA exception for your site, what I'm going to need you to do is list who your person is, your agency. That's usually a name. And if you are, end your relationship with that person or that company or agency, whether it's a Walmart or some federal thing, then you come back and tell us and keep us in that information. So if you don't do that, I will vote no, I guarantee you, every time. I'm also going to want to know about your long and short-term debt. Okay, are you borrowing money? Are you factoring money? Are you moving fund balances around? Like, I think check kiting is probably the closest example I can come to it. Are we going into check into cash to do payroll next week? Do you plan to incur huge amounts of debts, or do you have huge amounts of debts that you're paying off? I'm gonna ask those questions. Never underestimate my ability to find, I can't use that word, out, okay? And this one, I don't know who this might apply to, but if you are a charter and you're coming in, and if you have consultants that are either consultants of this district who have been employed as a consultant of this district or former employers of this district, you might as well just report that up front, because I follow these people, I know who they are, I know where they've been, I know where they're going. And for example, this is just a theoretical example. I would hate to discover on my own that in 2014, you came in here as a consultant to this district and peddled us a charter authorizer for dummies starter kit, and then for $16,000, and mysteriously a few years later, you are the national superintendent of something or other for a charter that you were helping push through at the district, supposedly objectively. I'm going to ask who you are, I'm going to ask what your cut is, and how much that cut affects the kids that go to your school. You can bank on that. And hey, I'm just trying to help you. I'm really here to edify you and to, what did I say, justify you, okay? On to better things. SPAD, I am the parent of probably the most cognitively limited child in the district, so that is a fact, so I have the ability to speak to what I'm about to say. I attended I'm holding up a charter thing. I'm not going to endorse them. I wouldn't go to that level, but I did go to the iLead 4th Annual Student Support Teams Symposium. To us SPED parents, SST, Student Support Team, you know what that means? Is the district is dodgeballing your request for an IEP. That's usually what that means to us, and we become very militant because we found the issue our child needs support in on our own. This time it meant something different. My experience as a SPED parent is the model of a pull out, meaning you take one kid, put them in a room with one therapist. That's kind of, I don't know, I don't think it works anymore. Sometimes I wonder, now broadly speaking, I don't think that every situation fits that. If you have someone with emotional issues or medical issues that involve maintaining someone's dignity, that's different. But I think iLead, being a younger model that can start their kids in a group on the right path from the time they're very young and develop empathy and community. I don't think that children need adults to tell them how to behave, because sooner or later they're going to be 18 years old and then they'll be lost. So they're full inclusion is what they are. Some of their topics are breakout session, autism in the classroom, basics of behavior, fostering independence and self-advocacy through student-led IEP. Imagine that, a kid that's actually speaking for what they might need themselves. Isn't that novel? Inclusion and co-teaching practices, sensory integration, preventing and resolving conflicts in special education while ensuring appropriate placements. Well, these are all general education teachers taking these kids on in the room, and the community, meaning the kids, accept them in the room. Understanding anxiety in the classroom, I could have used that one. Understanding the assessment process and the role you play as a teacher. understanding vision problems that affect learning. This was a great thing. All of their general education teachers were required to go through this, so that's good. So what does that mean for us? Well, it means that I'm hearing rumors. I don't know if the mommies are telling me the truth or not, but it appears that the VHS PTSO Know Your District guest speaker at the November meeting on the topic of something or other towards student supports like this in our own district is our own Mr. Dr. Tim Allison. Is that correct, Mr. King? That is correct, yes. So he will be there? He will be. Good, thank you. Finally, the VHS PTSO Fall Festival is the 19th. It is your civil and moral obligation to go to this. You're to take all of your money, the things that you typically waste money on, like your car, food, and mortgages, need to be directed to a better cause, and that is the VHS PTSO Fall Festival. Understand? Yes. Good, thank you.
Approval of those consent items.
I will move it in. I want to talk a little bit about 9.06.
Okay, so when we get, after it's moved in and seconded, then during discussion. So Ken, you moved it in, Ken Pfalzgraf.
I'll second.
Kelly Johnson. Okay, discussion. First, let the superintendent, do you have anything?
No, I'll take questions first.
Okay.
My only question is on 9.06. Is that for staff support and development?
Correct, that's for administrative support.
Administrative. Thank you. I'm done.
With the amount of charters that we authorize and are obligated to provide legal oversight for and support, it really justifies the additional 10 days we've added to that calendar. So I believe it's going from 205 days to 215 days, and the salary schedule reflects that.
Question, is this funded directly from charter revenue?
That's correct.
So it's not supported in any way by general fund revenue?
No.
Thank you. There was some talk about that the athletic eligibility was going to be defined in this, so we're not moving kids out of high desert that are ineligible and then dumping it into Mr. Brockway's lap when it comes time to start playing football and you find out you can't play. Was that updated to reflect that? Will that be an insert?
Are you talking about this? This is the volunteer handbook, or are you talking about the student handbook?
Right.
I think you're referring to the student handbook.
Good, then I won't have to ask that question next time. Thank you. Is our volleyball coach a stipend position at High Desert?
The high desert coaches do not receive a stipend.
Well, then they are a volunteer, so thank you. Okay, Lynn, I'll expect that as usual. You'll run through the long and short-term debt on this charter, how much factoring they're doing, what their fund balance transfers look like, especially large ones, and try to uncover whether somebody is going to incur some future debt to try to address something that could exist now. These are just standard questions. Don't take them personally. In terms of legal counsel, as always, Shay and Larry, I will expect a legal counsel statement of compliance, that all sites are compliant with Shasta and 1507 compliance. Jeff, your cohort measurement, it looks to me like you've got kids coming in that haven't made it somewhere else and they catch up. I need to do a little disclaimer here. My daughter attended a charter for 4 years. It collapsed. They had a different track. Somehow she wasn't going to be a gym star. And so she had to take some classes through one of your things, and she did fine there. So she actually got credits from you. Everyone needs to know that. But I don't think she's typical. I think what happens here is you have people coming in. They might be under court order to go back to school. they might be foster youth, they might be somebody in transition. So I think your cohort doesn't represent the 9th grader that walks in the door at VHS and walks away 4 years later with his tassel on. I think you've got some people that are in transition here. I think they're hard to track. And I think some kids actually stabilize in your school and go back to their placement. So I think 9% is better than 0 is what I would say to that. Your CTE track, do you, I mean, somebody getting a job at a thrift store, to me isn't CTE. If that's their capacity, that's good. I'm looking for relationships, if you have anything to report about journeyman craftsman positions like electricians, welders, operating engineers, people that air conditioning, all that type of thing. So anything that promotes people to that. I know underwater offshore welders on oil platforms that make the kind of money that we all wish we did. I would be, do you give appropriations for, like, so I can get a pass for Disneyland for my whole family? Are you engaged in that?
No.
Good, then you're not in San Diego, that's good. Your vendor list, is there anybody on your vendor list that I would be going, ooh, I know those people, they used to sit right out there in the audience? Or up here even?
No.
Please confirm that, guys. You know what, this is a material revision, this is not a new charter. You've been up here before, and from my look at your paperwork, that's the one thing I want to see. If somebody changes there, these things change. Federal funding changes and comes and goes, and they're different players. But it looks to me like your overall is there are 3 additions and 2 negatives, so your overall site gain is actually 1. Okay? Good, thank you. Health textbook piece, again, as I alluded to last time, there are some curriculum out there that are very, what do I say, progressive. I don't want to find out that, I would like somebody to take a look at this stuff before we introduce something that this community will not find acceptable to its typical standards. That's the easiest way I can say that.
No, absolutely, and typically when you do a curriculum adoption, you bring it in, you pilot it, it's very public, so teachers can see it and so on.
Yeah, I don't believe health encourages pushing certain agendas that are personal to me and other people.